Hey everyone, today it's Q&A number... Shalom everybody, welcome to Beit Tefillah and Q&A number 12. If you are new to our channel, this is where I take a lot of questions that I've received via email, Facebook, YouTube comments, or maybe different things that I've replied to on social media, and I put them here into these Q&A videos because I figure maybe more people have the same question, and that way everybody can hear the questions and the answers. This is our last video of 2019, and I usually like to end the fiscal year with one of these Q&As. Now, my life has been rather crazy lately, and unfortunately I'm not able to answer all the Q&A questions today that I've been wanting to get to. So if your question is not in this video, I will hope to get to it as soon as possible. Today's first question is, the look of your videos are different. Are you in your new studio now? Yes, I am. This is it. It isn't finished yet, but the temporary studio that I made videos in for years now, it was getting too crowded and it was getting way too stressful. So even though this one isn't done from a standpoint from where you're watching, it looks pretty much done, and it's a lot less stress for me to come out here while I have more room. And I need to get more insulation out here and drywall and stuff. But we have all of our equipment that we need, and you know, we have a heater out here now. I still need to get an air conditioning, but before that I do want to get insulation and drywall, or that's just going to be, you know, money out the window. So thanks to everyone who has helped make this possible. And you know, this isn't a big extravagant studio. This is a room that's 8 feet wide by 12 feet long. That's it. I don't need anything big and fancy. I've got this desk that I'm sitting at. I have another one over there with a computer where I render these videos and put them together, and then the rest is kind of filled with lighting, and I got a bulletin board and other printers and stuff over here. So yes, this is a new studio. That's why the videos look a little bit different, and this is where I'm going to be filming from now on. Okay, next question that I received in an email. Why does it take so long for some people to see the truth about the New Testament? Well, first of all, we know that Churchianity absolutely loves their pagan traditions that have been repackaged and Christianized to where they can convince people that they are good things to do in Elohim's eyes. They make it look very attractive, and through traditions marketed to children like Christmas and Easter, they become cherished childhood memories. So when people grow up, they want to give their own children those same memories, and this is why traditions can be such a dangerous thing. And once you have come away from all that, it's easier to see how these things are nothing but wickedness and against what Elohim commanded for those who wish to become his people. And a lot of times it can take just one thing that is contrary to what somebody believes to stick in their mind to make them go investigate it for themselves. That one thing for me was looking into the Sabbath. Once I started hearing about that, I wanted to go look into that, and that opened up so much for me to investigate that I realized the amount of falsehood out there was staggering. But, and here's a huge but, people have to actually want to look into it for themselves. A lot of people don't. It's easier for them to just find a teacher that validates what they already believe. And this is what's difficult for me to wrap my mind around. Most who are in the Hebrew Roots movement today realize they needed to keep the Sabbath, the Levitical food laws, the scriptural feast days, and that's why they walked out of their churches. But then they just stopped investigating, and they stopped learning. Why? Why would you do that? And one would think that if somebody claims to follow the Torah and you would present them with something that they do that violates the Torah, that they would immediately want to change course. But that doesn't always happen because beliefs are stronger than scriptural facts for many people. People want to choose what they believe here and here over what the word of Elohim says. And that's very sad, but it's a fact. But having said that, now more and more people are coming around as they hear a lot of things from so many people on Facebook and other social media and other places why they have ditched the New Testament and its Messiah. And they start to question it, they research it, and it makes sense to them. So it just takes time. Okay, for this next question, someone was referencing the video that I made a while back entitled Isaiah 53, Who is a Suffering Servant, that I'll link below in case anyone's interested in watching that. Anyway, they were thinking that they still thought that Isaiah chapter 53 pertained to this New Testament Messiah, and they mentioned specifically Isaiah 53, 9 to 10. Their way of thinking was this, and I quote, "Sounds like he committed no sin, but yet, and you want to say that he committed sin, nowhere does it say he confessed his sins." End quote. Well, in a way, I can see what they're talking about, but we have to read into the text and understand what's being written. So let's go ahead and read that from Isaiah chapter 53. "But Jehovah was pleased to crush him. He laid sickness on him, that when he made himself an offering for guilt, he would see a seed, he would prolong his days, and the pleasure of Jehovah would prosper in his hand." All right, first of all, let's look into this whole offering for guilt thing. No guilt offering was made unless there was sin to confess, which a person needed forgiveness for. Since the New Testament claims that its Messiah was sinless, then this obviously could not apply to him. In addition to that, this New Testament Messiah didn't have children or see a seed, and he was supposedly crucified between the age of 30 and 33, so his days were not prolonged, and it's recorded that he said he had no place to lay his head, so he certainly did not prosper. All of that in Isaiah chapter 53 just doesn't apply to any kind of New Testament Messiah. Add to that, we are told repeatedly through the book of Isaiah that the servant is Yisrael. Let's read some of these verses that lead up to chapter 53. Isaiah 43:10. "You are my witnesses," plural, "declares Jehovah, and my servant whom I have chosen, so that you know and believe me and understand that I am he. Before me there was no El form, nor after me there is none." Isaiah 44, 1-2. "But now hear, O Jacob, my servant, and Yisrael, whom I have chosen. Thus said Jehovah, who made you and formed you from the womb, who helps you. Do not fear, O Jacob, my servant, and Yeshurun, whom I have chosen." Isaiah 44:21. "Remember these matters, O Jacob and Yisrael, for you are my servant." That's as plain as it can be, okay? "I have formed you. You are my servant, O Yisrael. Do not forget me." Isaiah 45:4. "For the sake of Jacob my servant, and of Yisrael my chosen, I also call you by your name. I give you a title, though you have not known me." And Isaiah 49:3, "And he said to me, you are my servant, O Yisrael, in whom I am adorned." So as we lead up to Isaiah chapter 53, well before we get to chapter 53, we've been told many times who this servant is. If you're pulling Isaiah 53 out of context and proof texting with it, you may not get that. But you shouldn't just, if you're reading a book that has 66 chapters, you're not going to start at chapter 53. You should start at the beginning. So by the time you hit 53, you would know who is being discussed. Okay? It is the descendants of Jacob, Yisrael. Not one single man, but a group of people referred to as singular that Elohim does quite often. Okay? But if certain verses get pulled out of context or used by themselves as proof texts, then they can be easily misinterpreted. Okay, next question. Regarding my video, will there really be a great falling away? I was given a verse and then asked a question. Let's read the verse first in Numbers 13:33. "And there we saw the giants, the son of Anak, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight." And the question that pertained to this verse that was asked to me was this: would this not indicate giants, seeing that the people themselves saw themselves as grasshoppers in their sight, meaning they were tiny in the eyes of the Nephilim and also in their own eyes? Okay, once again, I need to stress that the Hebrew word Nephilim does not have giant in its definition. It means the fallen ones. It does not mean giants. Okay, let me try to make this a little bit simpler. Let's picture what grasshoppers or locusts do. Whenever there's a plague of locusts, what happens? They cover the land and they eat everything, correct? Now imagine the people of Canaan looking out in the wilderness with this wandering tribe of the family of Yisrael there's like 1 million people and they're wandering around, and of all these people, how many cattle and goats and sheep and donkeys do you think they had just covering the land and just moving as one and grazing? And the people need to eat too, and everything in their path is being eaten. It would kind of look like a big plague of locusts, wouldn't it? In the eyes of the people who are out there, they're cleaning everything up. What are they going to do when they get here in our land? So the whole group would have been like grasshoppers in their eyes, eating everything. Does that make sense? So I told that to the person, and they replied back, it has nothing to do with how many people there are. It has to do with the height of the people in the proper context. And then they gave me some more verses with the word giant in them, so let's read some of those verses that they used for reference, starting with Deuteronomy 2, 10 to 11. The Emites had dwelt there formerly, a people as great and numerous and tall as Anakim. They were also reckoned as giants like the Anakim, but the Moabites call them Emites. 2 Samuel 21, 15 to 16. And the Philistines were again fighting against Israel, so David and his servants with him went down and fought against the Philistines. And David was weary, and Ishbi-Benob, who was one of the sons of the giant, the weight of whose bronze spear was 300 pieces. 2 Samuel 21, 20 to 22. And there was a battle in Gath again, where there was a man of great height who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in number. And he also was descended from the giants. And he reproached Yisrael, and Jonathan son of Shimei, the brother of David, struck him. These 4 were born to the giant in Gath, and they fell by the hand of David and by the hand of his servants. So those are the verses they gave me, and yep, that's a giant 4 times in those verses, all right? However, the word giant in those verses was not translated from the Hebrew Nephilim, but translated from the Hebrew word Rapha. So clearly this is 2 different Hebrew words with different meanings, but unfortunately during the English or Greek translation, they gave them the same definition of giant, so they made some mistakes. My video was pertaining to the word Nephilim, not the word Rapha. So let's not mix different words, terms, and meanings. Let's read this verse from Genesis 28:1. And Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and commanded him and said to him, do not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. Now was Isaac telling his son Jacob not to marry the women from Canaan because they were giants? Like Isaac was going to tell Jacob, look son, you're only 6 foot tall and those Canaanite women, they're like 400 footers or something, so if one of them accidentally steps on you, well, it's all over for you, son. No. Isaac did not want Jacob to take a wife of the Canaanites because they were a fallen and a wicked people, not because they were giants. But people still like to make the comparison to grasshoppers and say that the Israelites are in the same size proportion to the Canaanites as regular men would be to grasshoppers. Really? Okay, so let's roll with that for a minute. Let's say a grasshopper would stand 1 inch tall. Just your regular average grasshopper today, and your regular average dude, your regular average man would stand 6 feet tall, which is 72 inches. So 72 times the height of a 1 inch tall grasshopper. So to get to the height of these supposed giants, we have to multiply 6 feet times 72 for the same size ratio. So they are suggesting that these giants would be about 432 feet tall. The tallest dinosaur ever thought to exist is the Sauroposeidon, which grew to an estimated mature height of 61 feet tall. Here's an illustration of one towering over an adult man. And here's an illustration of one of those supposed 430-foot giants, towering over the world's largest known dinosaur. See the comparison with the average size adult man down there to the bottom right of that dinosaur? Look how little that guy is. Are we supposed to believe that? So people actually think that these Nephilim were giants that stood over 7 times the height of that massive dinosaur? Really? We need to understand Hebrew idioms in Scripture, as not everything can be taken literally. Regarding how Elohim will protect his people, this was written in Psalm 91:4. He covers you with feathers, and under his wings you take refuge. So does this mean that our Elohim has wings and feathers? Of course not. This is a Hebraic expression or a Hebrew idiom. This is what I'm talking about. You know, when these scriptures were written, there wasn't modern inventions. It's not like somebody could say, yeah, these giants were so big it was like you stood a school bus up on it. No, they didn't have that, of course. So it was written as far as eagle's wings covering and protecting, or we were like grasshoppers, meaning we ate everything like grasshoppers and locusts do, because that's what people were afraid of. It was a plague. It wasn't a size comparison. It was a Hebrew idiom that means something else. But when things are translated and people take it word for what the translation is, for a good example of that is the word mercy seat, when it's talking about the lid of the Ark of the Covenant. I think mercy seat was originally put in there by Tyndale, but Martin Luther added it from the German Gnadenstuhl, which means mercy seat. He glammed it up a little bit to make it seem like something it is not. The original Hebrew word for that is kaperet, which simply means lid. It wasn't a mercy seat, okay? It was a lid. So that's a pretty good example now. All these things get built around, oh, it's the seat of mercy, and it's the seat of, and all of that. No. This is when English or Greek translations, they kind of doctor things up, or whether they're going to put a Christology in there or they're going to make it into something that it isn't, to try to push an agenda or just a bad translation. Like, there are 17 different words in Hebrew that they translated into a single English word called habitation. 17 Hebrew words that they made one English word, habitation or habitations. Think that would cause any issues? So this is what I'm talking about, where it's best to learn Hebrew, and if you don't know Hebrew and you can't speak it fluently, just look at it from the best sources you can find from the ancient texts and find out the real meaning. There's a lot of things online that can help you. There's a lot of resources, okay? Because obviously Elohim does not cover us with wings and feathers. It's a Hebraic expression. Since we started this YouTube channel, even though some of the videos were taken down, we have made 250 videos so far, and we're right at about 500,000 views. So thanks to all of our viewers and subscribers and supporters for that, because that's quite an accomplishment. I get a lot of great comments on Facebook when I post the videos there, but sadly, due to the scrolling nature of Facebook, those posts scroll off the feeds and then they're lost forever. So if you're a subscriber to our channel, if you can, please make those same comments here so they can be preserved under these videos, so people can always reference these comments, okay? That would be wonderful. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And if you have subbed already, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, as it helps us a lot with YouTube's algorithms. And that's all I have for this Q&A video. Thanks for all the emails, questions, and comments, everybody. Please keep them coming. I haven't had a chance to get to everyone lately, but I try, okay? So shalom to all my brothers and sisters who are scattered worldwide in the dispersion. Everybody be blessed and have a wonderful day.